guys, I hope everybody's having a fantastic day, whether you're watching this in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening. We're just going to get to it today, and we're going to talk about what I feel has probably been one of the most undersung knives of 2022. I hear a lot of complaints about it. I hear a lot of gripes about it, and I get it. And that's the Demko AD20.5. So that's what I keep in my bag. So the biggest complaint I hear is the materials for the cost, FRNs, plastic. These are grippy scales. If it's really all you had and you were getting into what I feel like is a good knife with probably one of the most revolutionary, stable, and interesting knife locks to come out since I've been back in the game, plus you get a little patch. So anyway, that's what came out of the box after I finished with it. So this is the Demko 20.5. This is the first Demko 20.5 that I added to my collection. I upgraded the FRN, i.e. plastic scales, with some sharp dress knives, carbon, micarta, not carbon micarta, python micarta, linen scales, and a backspacer. And then I ordered, before Lynch Northwest was in the deep pocket clip game, I ordered this from Pops Clips on Etsy. So what I loved about the AD20.5, even with the plastic scales, was I loved the action. I loved the lock system. I think it is probably one of the fidgetiest knives with a super, super strong lock. It's not as big as the AD20 or the AD20s. It's more of an EDC size knife. You can tell mine, this particular variation, is a little bit thicker than some we'll look at here in a second. That's right, some, because I have 4 AD20.5s and I've made them all specifically unique to me. And I've got some that are the AUS 10A that I've put an edge on that are very, very sharp. I'm looking as I talk for some scrap paper and I don't see any because I would slice some for you. This paper was wet. But anyway, the point is I've had no problem with the heat treat, the way that I use the knife. I've had no problem with the action. I've had no problem with the lockup. Did I think for $149 it was expensive with FRN scales and AUS 10A? To be honest with you, made in Taiwan, I did not. I was excited for this knife to come out, and I can remember when Lefty EDC and DTOM picked up their first AD20.5 when they were over at Blade Show 2 years ago and showed it on Lefty's live show when it had first started. And I thought, man, I've got to get one of those because of the axis lock and the fidgetness. That's not even a word. The fidgetness. Well, you know what I mean. It's very fidgety. So the AD20.5 was a knife that I was anxiously awaiting. So when it came in, I'd seen all the negative reviews. I'd seen a few positive reviews. I think everybody kind of agreed that the lock was revolutionary. But in the comments, you'd still hear things like, oh, overpriced, blah, 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 yada, 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 whatever, right? So I tracked this one down when they were still hard to get. So this would have been after Blade Show when they first came out. And lo and behold, I was able to score my first AD20.5 in AUS 10. So it took a while for the scales to come out and people to start making scales to where I could actually upgrade the knife. While I was doing that, I wanted a deep carry clip, and I found Pops Clips. Everything was great there. And then I had an AD20.5 in my Carta, and I really dug it. So fast forward about, I forget when the influencer of all influencers, the responsible party for my knife addiction, Lefty EDC, had gotten an AD20.5, and he hooked up with Spencer over at Carbonize and got some of his freshly released carbon fiber scales for the AD20.5. So I did not want to remove my Python micarta, so the only solution for me, using my squirrel brain, was to pick up another AD20.5 and pick up one in maybe a different blade configuration. That way I could tell my squirrel brain that I wasn't buying the same knife. See, they're different. They're not the same knife. So I picked up this Demko AD20.5 Sharksfoot, also in AUS 10A, also has been sharpened by me, cut with, used quite a bit, and retains a fantastic edge. Also has amazing action, very fidgety, has one of the strongest lockups of anything I've got, no lock rock, no movement there. And this has a set of scales that I had Spencer over at Carbonize build for me with a little bit different backspacer, carbon fiber backspacer that's got the steps in it, and then those gold flake that the camera doesn't do justice, especially with my lighting, but the gold flake carbon fiber, just really a unique knife. The only thing that draws the similarity is the lock in the back, because this one is a different blade style and has a totally different look because it is in carbonized carbon fiber. So fast forward to when Blade HQ released their K112/D2 version of the 20.5. A good buddy of mine, someone who's local in the community, Dark Gravity, was kind of wanting an AD20.5. I had two, and there was a knife he had, a little Benchmade, that we were talking about possibly trading for, working out a few details, and we traded for it, sitting over at his house at his kitchen table. While I was completing the trade, I was on my phone on Knife Center's website ordering another AD20.5. The AD20.5 that I ordered and the knife that I traded to Dark Gravity was since replaced by this knife, which is an AD20.5 that is just like the clip point there. It has very thin, very nice feeling, high quality titanium scales from Original Goat. My buddy Marty, Knife Eclectic, hooked me up with these at Blade Show, showed them to me. I was just jazzed. I believe this has a lynch clip on it, and this one again is in D2, made in Taiwan, K112, little harder steel. I've put the blade or the stones to it, sharpens up fine for what I do. It's super slicey, has the same AD20.5 action that I love. Great carry knife, looks totally different than my other two 20.5s, and guys, it is a different knife. How you say? We have one clip point 20.5 in AUS 10A. We have one Sharksfoot in AUS 10A with carbon fiber scales. And we have a D2 clip point with titanium Original Goat scales. Then we had the Brother Brown auction for Jason Brown. Be up, rest in peace. I'll love you always, brother. And one of the items that was up for raffle was an AD 20.5 in 3V, made in Taiwan, with these Original Goat aluminum scales, which was the first set of scales that I actually had on the knife that I traded to Dark Gravity. I had the raw pineapple. So when I saw this as the green pineapple, and it was available to be bid on Brother Brown's auction, that it wasn't Stevie's auction, it was my bad's auction, to raise money for Brother Brown, for Sarah, for Nora, and I was honored to buy this knife. I actually bid against myself to make sure that it got up to a fair value, because I felt like it was going for too little. And again, it's the 3V. This blade has its own stories, but it came to me with original goat scales, with an AUS 10A blade, and with the Pops clip. So that would have completed my AD20.5 collection, but my blades were the same. I had AUS 10A and AUS 10A. So I reached out to a good friend of the community and a good friend of mine, Brian at Transparent Knives, because I knew he did reblades. And I'm not in the position now to get one of Brian's reblades, but you can tell I have a palette ready for one to several of Brian's reblades, and I definitely will have a reblade on one of these AD20.5s. But I reached out to him and I asked him, hey man, what do you do with the blades that come in? You know, and he said, I sell them for what I felt like was a very reasonable price. And I asked him if he had any of the 3V blades in, which he did, and if he had any of the Sharksfoot, which he did. So he did tell me, because Brian, as you guys know, is not only one of the most knowledgeable people that I listen to in the knife community at Transparent Knives, but he's also extremely talented, and he's very particular. When I say particular, he's a perfectionist. That's why his business is successful. That's why his blades are so highly sought after. That's why his opinion is held in such high regard. But he told me in full transparency, no pun intended, Transparent Knives, hey John, this blade doesn't have the best edge on it. I said, Brian, do not worry about that, buddy. You send it to me. I'm going to be sharpening it anyway. I like to work the any burnt steel off. I just appreciate you working with me, giving me a great deal on a blade that'll help complete a knife that has deep sentimental value, be up, and it would get me that 3V, that next evolution, so to speak, in the 20.5. So the blade came in. Before I even switched it with the knife, I stuck it in my TS Prof Blitz and brought it down to about a 17.5 degree edge, and it is just slicey. See if I can find one more piece of paper. And I know this is boring. Paper cuts. Everybody cuts paper, right? And I cut it really terribly because I have not great hands. But, whoop. Very sharp. Very carvy. Use your air there, guys. So anyway, the AD20.5. What is the purpose, John, of you wasting 10 to 13 minutes telling me about the AD20.5, which is the knife that we've all heard about? Because, guys, I truly feel like this knife is underrepresented. It doesn't quite get the love that I feel like it deserves. It gets a lot of hate because it's AUS 10A, or the materials are less than great. But we've got such talented people in the community that make or mod wonderful accessories for our knives. We have people with fantastic artistic ability and that think well outside the box. Thank you, Spencer. And people that are absolutely true craftsmen, knife makers, that are looking at the knives that the community has been collecting and makes them better. Thank you, Brian at Transparent Knives, for what all you do for the community and with your reblades, not just on AD20.5s, but this is kind of his main platform. And then you know, it's a knife that I think carries well, has the strongest lock you could want. There are 3 steels available now, so you can find whether it's 3V, whether it's Austin 10A, whether it's D2, pick up a 20.5, make it your own. Either hit up Knife Eclectics / Original Goat, our brother Marty at Original Goat Scales, Spencer at Carbide Eyes, Shark Dress Knives. There are many others, guys. But my point is, it is one of my favorites. No, it didn't make any of my top 10s for 2022 because it wasn't a knife that came into my collection in 2022. It is a knife that has stayed in my collection. I have traded one away, which I immediately replaced. I did not replace the scales because I've got another set of scales for these somewhere, and I forget exactly what they are. But I know I traded, no, I know what happened. I traded the knife with the original scales. And then if I'm not mistaken, and brother Bama Ninja, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you and I worked something out on the raw scales when we met up over at St. Nick's Knives, doing our little knife meetup. Guys, that's what all this is about. It's about community. It's about communication. It's about helping each other out. It's about lending advice. It's about being welcoming. It's really about looking out for the guy or gal to your left, looking out for the guy or gal to your right, and looking out for each other. Guys, all I ask is you keep love in your heart. You know that we have a community with just fantastic humans. Hopefully that community continues to grow. We're going to have different opinions. We're going to have people that totally disagree with other people's opinions because opinions are like assholes, right? Everybody's got them. The trick is choose debate over hate. Talk to someone before talking to the community as a whole. We're all human. Just reach out and say, hey man, did you mean this? Did you mean that? Or hey girl, is this what you meant? And guess what? You can work through things. You can also learn. That's a good way to learn from what you might or might not consider the other side. Regardless of where you sit, I love you all. I appreciate you. Every time you stop by to watch one of my videos, I appreciate those of you who choose to subscribe, and I appreciate you guys looking out for each other. I love you all. Peace.